and how to access certain information. So I will go briefly over the remote work landscape. What are specific skills and experience that are, let's say, desired or highly sought after in general in remote work? Each of you, according to your industry and specialty, will also have to, of course, do your own research to make it even more specific. But this is, just an overview. And just wanted to make sure I am recording. Did anyone notice? Yes, the recording is on. Okay. Good. So in terms of Poland, right now, 1 in 3 Poles have transitioned to remote or hybrid work arrangements. And maybe hybrid is a new word or an old word for some of you, but for anyone who is not familiar, hybrid means a combination of in-person and work from home. 27% of Poles combine work in an office with a home office, so that is hybrid. So you have, over a quarter of the workforce in a hybrid situation, and that means that a lot of companies, of course, are either familiar with or developing their HR strategy, their onboarding strategy according to this new landscape. And some companies are further along in the process than others. And that is something, good to understand when you are applying to roles. Where in that process is the company? Because that can help you set expectations for yourself, but also you will understand how to market yourself according to that. Because if there is a company who is needing you to be more independent, of course, that's a quality that's always good. But if they don't have a lot of systems in place for you, that quality will be even more sought after. And just a few fun statistical facts. So the number of remote or hybrid workers, unsurprisingly, is growing. And at the moment, and this is not just for Poland, I think this is globally, full-time employees who work from home, it's a total of 38%. And then full-time employees who work a hybrid model, again, is even greater. So 61% is a pretty large share of the total workforce. And many workers, as yourselves, are wanting to get into remote work. And so a really high number, 98% of workers, want to have at least the option to work remote sometimes. So that's a big shift in terms of flexibility. Right now, we see that this level of flexibility is possible. And of course, we want it because it makes a lot of things in our life easier. And 87% of workers would accept the remote work if they were offered that. And I think this is also important for us to know because, and us as in Upwardly Global and yourselves, right? All of you have at least a bachelor's degree or a more advanced degree. And so this puts you in a good position to work remotely because according to these numbers, right, in general, people with that higher education level are more likely to work remote. And there's probably other reasons there as well, but part of it is the skill set that you already have enables you to successfully gain that remote opportunity. And I can assume, I think that most of you are in the pros, let's say, bracket of remote work. But again, when you're crafting your CV and your applications, it's also good to understand where could there be potential weaknesses in, if you haven't ever worked remote, it's good to, right, lay that out and understand because it will help you interview and it will help you craft a strong application. So some remote work pros, and these may be different for you personally, but for some people, it's a better work-life balance. For instance, where I am from, the San Francisco Bay Area, we have a lot of traffic, and I hear from my colleagues in Warsaw, it's the same. To get from A to B, right, you are spending a lot of time in sitting in traffic. So in terms of your ability to just, get up and start working and without a commute, that's a huge difference. Of course, you have more freedom to do the work when and where is practical for you. For some employees, that means it's a better experience. It's a better work experience. And for a company's perspective, they have decreased infrastructure costs. Rents for a office building can often be expensive. So these are expenses that they are, of course, suddenly no longer having to bear. Some possible cons, again, could be different for you personally. But if you're a people person, right, you really enjoy the interaction with other colleagues, coworkers, you don't have that. You don't have that face-to-face connection. For me personally, I do miss that. And that's just something that I've had to get used to. For others, there is a lack of access to information. So oftentimes in an office, as many of you know, right, you could just walk over to someone's desk and quickly ask them for something. And in this remote space, that's no longer possible, although, there are other ways to access information. This could lead, not always, but could lead to decreased collaboration. We're not forming those personal connections. We're not having that casual communication over coffee that we normally would in an office setting. And for some, the piece of loneliness and isolation, we saw that especially in the beginning of the pandemic, a big shift to really, not having that human interaction that we are used to. I'm curious to hear from any of you on the call today. Do you have any pros or cons to add to this list yourself? Maybe you have been working remotely and you experienced something that was a huge benefit, or maybe even a drawback for yourself. And if you want to add it in the chat, that's also fine. Yes. And if you want to unmute yourself, that's perfectly fine as well.
I can say from my own experience that, well, I actually still work for Ukrainian company remotely. And if I compare it with the situation when I was there in Ukraine, before I came to Poland, I can say that people there, they almost forgot about me, that I exist. And yeah, there is the cooperation, the communication is much worse now.
Yeah, because I would take it, you're focusing on your duties, right? But maybe they don't involve other people, so they don't have to connect with you as often.
Yes. And anyway, there we had meetings. We were in the office together. We met each day. And now I can call somebody like once a week or once 2 weeks time. And yeah, let's say the quality of communication is much worse now.
Yeah, that makes sense, because there has to also be systems in place to almost counteract, right? Is the rest of your company still in person for the most part? Are you one of the few people who is remote?
Yeah, there are some people who work remotely, and with them, we even communicate less frequently than with the people with whom I worked at the same office.
Yeah, it definitely presents challenges, and I think to expect those, even at the point where you are applying, is a good thing, because it's not for everyone. I would say, but it has its benefits. Just a quick note on a few terms. You won't necessarily see these in your applications, but I think just for you all to know that there are typically two types of remote work companies, or companies that work remotely. One is called fully distributed, and that just means that everyone in the company works remotely. And usually because of this, right, they have very solid onboarding systems. They have put, different tools and technologies in place for team communication, so that the flow of collaboration and information is smooth. The other type is called partially distributed, as the word signifies, right? It's a company that is partially online or remote. So it could be with one or more remote workers. Usually, it would be more than one. But some of these companies, even on their websites, they could describe themselves as remote friendly or remote flexible. And in this case, during your interview process, right, it might be wise to ask about what their remote onboarding process is, so that you can get a firm understanding of, to what extent have they developed their remote processes. As I said, when I started with Upworthy Global, they were just starting to go remote. And so it was learning by doing. It was, okay, how can this new way of coaching online work? How does it feel to only meet people on Zoom and never meet them in person? So, that there is a spectrum of how a company currently, now we're some years in, but it could be that they're still transitioning those systems. And again, just for background, some top job postings and industries for remote work. This is 2022, so a little bit outdated, but I think it still probably rings true. A lot of accountant positions. We have executive assistant, customer service representative, so customer service role. Again, a role in finance, senior financial analyst. A lot of recruitment positions are online now. Project management positions, you have a lot of project management tools available to use online. Writing, so editing, writing positions, marketing positions, and graphic design positions. And in terms of industry, I think this should have come to no surprise. We have at the top IT, then we have marketing, accounting and finance, project management, medical and health. That actually was interesting to me. I didn't expect that. HR and recruiting, and customer service. So it doesn't mean that if you're not looking for this role or you're not in this industry, that your chance of remote work is zero. It just means that here is a higher likelihood, a higher concentration of opportunity. So let's get to the marketing part. Skills and experience to market. I have it divided between soft and hard skills, but a lot of the time there is a crossover. So this is just one way to look at it. But in terms of soft skills, a company, putting ourselves in the shoe of the company, like we did last week, we want to think of ourselves from the recruiter or like HR standpoint. So if you are working remote, right, your level of adaptability, because there are going to be always new situations, your level of self-motivation is very important. No one is there, looking over your shoulder. Are you doing everything? It's up to you to manage your work. And of course, your motivation has a big role in that. Your ability to not only market yourself, but of course, market in terms of the product, if you are in that marketing field. Teaching, and you can think of teaching not in the traditional sense of, you have a classroom full of students, but teaching in the sense of conveying information to others in a clear manner. being able to explain a process or explain the reason why you're doing something. Emotional intelligence, that's kind of a bigger category, but basically, right, being able to be reading other people's emotions, even on a Zoom or on a remote, let's say, communication platform, and problem solving. Problem solving is always good, but especially if you're remote, it's harder, as we mentioned, to sometimes access information or access even an answer about something. Maybe your boss will be on vacation for a week and you're remote and you're not in an office where you can ask other people. You have to figure it out yourself, figure out maybe who to ask in the company. And then collaboration is a big one because it's more difficult online. And so it's almost like your skills have to be increased, right? So the way I think of it is like for theater or movies, usually the makeup is more heavy so that it appears to the audience. And the same thing goes for these soft skills remote, is that you almost have to turn up the dial even more because it's harder to communicate that skill online. And so it's almost like you have to emphasize it. So emphasize the collaboration, emphasize your ability to time manage. That was a big challenge for me, the time management, because your day is naturally broken up in an office, but then at home you have to set that structure for yourself. So how can you in an interview and in your resume show those skills? And this got a little bit blocked off, but that should say communication. As we said, communicating with your colleagues, communicating with your clients. Reliability is a big one. A company has to know that they're putting a certain level of trust in you, that you will get done what you need to get done from a remote location. And then empathy kind of fits along with the emotional intelligence piece, building relationships. We still have to be in communication and in some sort of relationship with each other, even if we are just individually on our laptops at home. So as all of these things, try to think, how are you conveying these skills? And if there are gaps in those skills, right, it's not bad. We can't all be, 100% on all of these, but if you can think of ways that you might want to develop those skills, or focus on building them while you are job searching. The same thing goes for the hard skills listed here. So digital marketing, data analysis. I'm not going to read through them. I will let you do that. But this is just a quick list of different hard skills that are in demand. And there are many other ones as well. A few ones I want to point out, though. We have here language fluency, right? So all of you speak at least 2 languages, and that's a benefit. That's something that you can market, right? Because not all remote workers who are applying to positions have those different levels of language fluency that you do, which actually increases your ability to work with a remote team, especially an international team. So that's something I would definitely highlight. And the piece of virtual collaboration and communication, I think that's more of a soft skill. But go through this list or think yourself, what are certain hard skills that are particularly to my advantage in the remote workspace? And if you're interested in learning how you can increase certain hard skills for remote work, I would recommend checking out this link. And I will briefly show you what it looks like. So it's not very beautiful. Sorry, I need to work on my presentation here. But if you click in, right, to each hyperlink, you will be led to a course either on Coursera or Udemy Business or LinkedIn Learning. You should have access to all of those through our program. And right? You can decide based on the skill set. So this topic is video conferencing, and we have many different courses, online courses, to increase your skills there. Or, right, maybe there are some chat platforms, communication platforms that you're not familiar with that you want to increase your skill. In general, all of these things, right, the best way to get to know them is to use them. But if you want to get at least a foundation of knowledge, right, so that you can add that to your CV or add that to your LinkedIn, because you're seeing it on a job posting, right? That's something I would recommend. Or maybe you're just interested in learning about a new project management tool. So that's a list there. If you are in finance, right, you can explore these options, and it goes on and on. So this link will be included in the presentation, and I can also share it in our chat now. So yeah, I definitely recommend for you to think about your current experience and skills in that framework. What is marketable for remote focused work? Aside from specific skill sets, hard or soft skills, we have your typical marketing toolbox, which includes, of course, number one, your CV. And very important, as I already said, to talk about the tools that you know in that CV. So if you have used Salesforce, if you have used any project management tool, if you know a coding language, right? These are things that you want to definitely mention. Showing a level of autonomy or independence, and that can go in your description of responsibilities and duties to show, that you took initiative, that you were driving the results of a project or anything like that. And of course, results as well. LinkedIn, I think that's self-explanatory, but definitely add that you're open to remote work in your settings. And when you're using it as a tool to find positions, there is, an option in your search to choose remote or hybrid work. So definitely don't forget to do that. One thing that I think gets overlooked in our marketing toolbox often is the email, right? It's so simple, and yet this is one of the ways that a company will first communicate with you. And so it's basic, but if you can match your email with your name. So that means, like, I know that many of you have different spelling of your names, and that makes it a bit more difficult. But if someone sees, an email in their inbox and it's a completely different name than the name of the person, it's just harder to navigate. It's harder for them to, I should say it's easier for them to miss an email, or it's easier for them to overlook you. So one way is to basically match, right? Match your CV, match your LinkedIn, match your email. So it's all cohesive. One thing, and I think I will share out a step-by-step guide of this, but if you haven't already, a very simple way to increase your professionalism of your email is to simply add a signature to your email. And that's a line that includes your name, your contact, and sometimes if you want and you have a LinkedIn, the link of your LinkedIn profile, and it will automatically attach to any email you sent. And this just, heightens the professionalism. In addition, right, a professional headshot doesn't mean you have to go and get, a photographer to take your photo, but having a photo that is professional, which you can upload not only to your LinkedIn, but also to your email, especially if you use Gmail, right? It means that the icon of your picture will be included. And again, this helps professionalize and simplify people's ability to identify you. If I see a little picture with the email, then right, I'm connecting this name with the face. And especially when we're thinking about remote work and remembering who someone is and establishing relationships and communicating oftentimes with many different people at the same time, these small things do make a difference. So I would, just recommend that you do that now, so that you're basically showing the company, look, I understand the importance of these small things and I'm already doing them. Software tools, I talked about this already, but I want to emphasize that many remote companies are using different softwares to bridge those communication gaps. And so 100% list any of them that you know, even if it's theoretical. Let's say even you only took a Coursera course about Asana, right? Still, that is going to make you stand out more to a company that uses Asana than an applicant that has no mention of Asana. Because remember too, we are trying to get through the ATS system, the applicant tracking system. And the applicant tracking system is often looking for the match between your CV and the job description and the keywords in the job description. So we want to boost that match as much as possible. So listing whatever, communication, project management, customer relations, or data management software tools that you are aware of or know of is a great way to do that. I would also pay close attention when you're looking at job openings to which software tools you notice again and again. Maybe there is a pattern of tools, and that's also your guide to which ones you should focus your energy on learning. So some examples here: Slack, Salesforce, Basecamp, Trello. These are software tools that are often used for remote work. Not always. Like, for example, Upwardly Global, we are using the we use any Google products. So we have G Drive, we have Google Meet, we have Google Hangouts. We have that suite of systems. There might be a company that uses Microsoft, right? And so then you would have to get used to that. But one last tip on talking about software tools and how to market them: if you have experience with one and not the other, that still shows the company, look, you are able to navigate that kind of system. And you can always in the interview highlight, I'm not familiar with Microsoft Teams, but I have often used Google Meet because my last company used that, and I'm familiar and confident with my ability to use these types of communication platforms. So as long as you can build a bridge connecting your knowledge, you don't have to necessarily, of course, know all of them. So a few work application tips, remote work application tips. If you're in a process with a company and you want to be clear with them that you're specifically looking for remote work. I think that's number one. So stating your preference for remote work. If they say, sorry, we're actually only a hybrid company, right? Then you can decide, is that still something that you would be open to? Like I said earlier, emphasizing those remote relevant skills, highlighting any previous remote work. If you have done it in the past, right, it means you can do it again. And so saying, yes, I achieved XYZ in my last position, which was either hybrid or fully remote. I know many of you also still work with Ukrainian companies. And even though you're looking to get a job in Poland, that's what you're doing now. That is a great foundation to, right, show your next employer that you have been successful in doing that and you're confident in your ability to take that experience and that confidence and bring it to the next role or the next team. And also, it's good to keep in mind that the majority of remote employers or even hybrid employers are looking for people who are trustworthy and people who are passionate about their work. And those things are, of course, hard to show on a piece of paper. But I think, especially during the interview, right, you can really express your enthusiasm, express your desire, express your, your excitement about being in a certain industry or being in a certain role. And the reason is because when people are passionate or love their work, right, they're just more able to do the work, especially in a remote position. There's that sense of intrinsic motivation. And then trustworthiness just comes down to, doing what you say you're going to do. And that's, again, more of a quality that you can communicate through the interview. So speaking of interviews, some common interview questions, again, these will be different depending on the role and the industry, but in general, right, they might want to know from you what your past experience with remote work is. So really be prepared to talk about that past experience. And right, that can be highlighting any wins or discussing any strengths that make remote work easier for you. Relevant anecdotes, that means relevant stories about times that let's say you work with an international team on different time zones, or you had to make decisions quickly. If you do not have remote work experience, then it's also good to prepare to think about how will you answer this question. So again, creating bridges between past experience and the remote work context. For instance, you could say something like, while I do not have any remote work experience yet, I always have been very independent in my work style and have really succeeded in driving results independently. I think that I would do really well in a remote work context, given this ability of mine. So that's just something off the top of my head, but I think you get the point. You're trying to convince the employer that despite your lack of experience, you still have a certain set of qualities and skills that lend themselves well to the remote context. They might ask, what kind of digital collaboration tools have you used? So again, if you haven't used any of these, that's fine. You would want to do a bit of research, maybe take an online course, and again, say, while I haven't used these, I've familiarized myself, or I have used another type of collaboration tool. And you can say, what did you like about it? What did you learn about it? How did it help you connect with your team members? So it's good to just add a little bit detail there about not just what you have used, but how it has helped you in your role. Another question that might come up is, how do you stay organized in a digital workplace? This, level of organization is important, especially if you're managing a lot of data or you're managing a lot of clients at the same time. So you're also showing your reliability and efficiency here. And right, try to bring up specific tools. So something more than, oh, I have a folder on my desktop, right? Be as specific as you can to lay out, what are the digital tools that you have used in the past, and you could even add what are the ones that you're interested in implementing or using, because sometimes it's not just what the company wants you to do, it's, what do you think has helped you personally and professionally. For example, in my role and at Upwardly Global more broadly, right, we have an Asana account. Does that mean everyone uses Asana every day? No. It's really up to you to decide, how do you want to use the tool, and to what degree will you become an expert in that tool. You could be using it very basically, or you could, inform yourself and take courses and really use it to the highest degree. So you want to show the company that you're the kind of person who sees a tool and really uses it and really improves, let's say, your efficiency or your communication or collaboration ability through using that tool. And another question, why do you want to work from home? So, I would say sometimes these questions, it's hard to understand to what degree should I be honest, to what degree should I add personal information. I would say when in doubt, just keep it more professional. So you could point out that you feel more productive or motivated at home. Maybe, you have more time because you're not commuting. So, stay on that professional level. They would also be curious to know oftentimes about your communication skills, and they want to know that you can communicate effectively, no matter if it's in person or online. And so here's a chance to talk about your personal communication style, to understand, how do you best communicate with others? And that's a very personal thing. So I don't think that there's necessarily a right or wrong answer to this, but I would emphasize, your ability to communicate across teams, across, what's the word I'm looking for? Across functions. Cross-functional communication is kind of like a buzzword, but basically, it means communicating with different people who have different jobs and being clear about what is the information you want, what is the information you need. A big part of that is building relationships, making sure the person knows you and trusts you, and maybe can feel comfortable asking you a question. So that's, maybe providing also an anecdote, a story about how your communication helped improve an outcome or situation. And that doesn't have to be in a remote setting, because I think that while even if you want to focus on remote experience, if you don't have it, you can still point to your communication skills as a reason why you would do well in a remote workplace. Oh no, I had a list of of links here. For some reason they're not. Oh, they're there. So where to look for remote positions. These are just a few of the sites that I know about. There might be more that are based in Poland, but definitely if you don't know about these, add these to your list. They are particularly focused on remote positions. And for most of them, once you click in, you can indicate your location, or you can indicate, from anywhere. But I think it is important to pay attention to the time zone, right? Unless you're going to be up all night, it's important to indicate that. I also want to mention the role of ChatGPT in helping you craft your marketing tools. Maybe some of you are already using it for your job search. That's great. I encourage all of you to check it out. It's a huge help to these very often repetitive tasks of the job search: customizing your CV, customizing a cover letter, understanding what job titles to apply to. So those are all things that ChatGPT can help you with. In terms of the remote search, it can help you to research and understand certain industry trends and the job market related to your specialty or focus. And I'll talk in a moment about how. It can also identify skills to enhance for remote work. So we talked about that already. How in your role or your industry, what are specific skills or technologies that would be good to know for promoting yourself. It can also help you to find roles and apply to roles in terms of looking for the correct job titles. As I mentioned earlier, right, it also helps you to tailor your applications, and it can help you to prepare for interviews by giving you even more examples of potential questions. So the ones that I listed are only a few, but if you were to use ChatGPT and write a prompt specifically with your experience and job title, it would list a whole new set of interview questions that you can use to prepare. So for all of these tasks, right, I'm not going to talk too much today about like the basics of ChatGPT because it's not the focus of our webinar. But for all of them, it's good to be clear about your objectives, right? So in the very beginning, when you're doing your research, or even if you're looking for roles, you would have to decide the position type. For example, full-time, part-time, location, right? We're probably going to choose certain time zone and remote, and then the sector of your employment, whether that's IT or finance. And so those are just the basics. And with that information, ChatGPT can offer recommendations that are specific to you. So one example of a prompt would be to write, it's very conversational. That's why it's called ChatGPT. I'm searching for a full-time product manager job based in Poland where I can work from home. Can you recommend 5 positions? Or maybe you ask it, recommend full-time remote jobs for a product manager with 5 years of experience in Poland. So those are just 2 brief examples. And there are many other prompts. You can even just Google search, ChatGPT prompts for remote work. It's really important with ChatGPT to continue modifying and updating your inquiries, your chats, based on the results that you get, right? So it's a conversation back and forth. So after you type this, right, and you get some information and you read through it and you ask yourself, there's actually something missing here, you can type another message. Please incorporate my experience on my resume, and then you attach your resume. So it's an ongoing, updated conversation. And once you get further into that conversation, you're narrowing down your information. And ChatGPT is also understanding the context better. So it's kind of like adding certain parameters to your original question and then going from there into more detail. So we're right on time for our 10 minutes of questions. Please unmute yourself, or if you feel more comfortable, you're welcome to add your questions in our chat here. And any questions you have related to remote work, marketing yourself, or anything else, I'm happy to try and answer. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much for your clarification. It's quite interesting to obtain this information. And I think that I have no questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Maxim. Nice to have you here. Yevgenia, you have a question.
Hi, everyone. Am I right that if I have a different spelling in my email and my LinkedIn, it's a big deal, and I have to create new mailbox with another spelling of my first and last name?
I would say it's not a big deal. It also depends how different is the name. Is it
It's
just like
pretty
one
different.
different? I would say, yeah, in that case, consider to, I know it's a pain to create a whole new email, but consider like the long-term benefit, right? So maybe it's annoying now, but it will benefit you, especially in your applications. As I said, HR recruiters will be able to sort of match your LinkedIn to your email better. Yeah, I would say that's a decision that you have to make depending on the degree of difference, and if you see a benefit of going that route.
Okay, okay.
Could you change it on your LinkedIn, or is that also not a possibility?
No, my LinkedIn, it's spelled like in my passport, but on my email, I have different spelling of my name and actually in my last name because of spelling, yeah, because in Ukraine it's sounds like with two letters, and in English spelling it's only one letter, like O. That's why it's Klepova and Klopova, and Evgenia is the same with different spelling. Okay, got you. And by
Yeah.
the way, thanks for this really useful speech. Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're very welcome. Yeah, I have noticed that with a lot of our participants, and it's it's not. I would say there's worse things, but if you want to have sort of a more straightforward marketing, that's the way to go. Anyone else question? You can, as I said, write it in the chat. You could even write it in Ukrainian, and I can use my ChatGPT to translate. Anton, I found that one major issue in the remote job search is employers' requirements to have local work permits. Yes, we didn't get into the legal framework of work authorization and permission, but at least one of the sites that I recommended, the opening will sometimes say, only US based applicants can apply. So there will be times where the employer is clear on a location, even if it is remote. So try to see that early on if you can. But I agree, that's definitely an issue. Has anyone else encountered other issues that they have seen if you have been active in your remote job search already? No.
Maybe everyone has a lot of communication during the day. That's why keeping silence in the evening.
I totally understand. It's evening, and probably everyone has had a long day behind them already. I'm going to wrap up here. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I will, as always, share these slides as well as the recording. And if you have any follow-up questions that come to mind, you can always email me or reach me on LinkedIn. I hope that this was useful, and you're all welcome to join our Business English Club tomorrow evening, same time. And next week, I should say, we are not having our usual webinar. We will skip over 1 week since I will be out of the office, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.